This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
Kindness. We see it all around us. We see it when someone pays for someone else's coffee or holds the door open for another person. We see it in the smallest of gestures, like a smile or a kind word. But it's different when we turn on the news or social media. Oftentimes, what we hear about, what outlets are pushing, is the opposite of kind. Welcome to the Kindness Matters podcast. Our goal is to give you a place to relax, to revel in stories of people who have received or given kindness, a place to inspire and motivate each and every one of us to practice kindness every day. Hey everybody and welcome. This is Mike Rathbun, your host, and you are listening to the Kindness Matters podcast. I hope you're having a fantastic week. Let's dive into the episode in just a second, but first, let's talk about the new February podcast of the month over at the Deluxe Edition Network, deluxeeditionnetwork.com. First up is Films and Fermentation. This is a podcast that follows three friends who like to talk shit about movies while getting, well, shit-faced. Your hosts, Kevin, Mike, and Leo, discuss various movie topics in conjunction with their favorite libations. It's a podcast about alcohol and cinema. Cheers! Next up on the podcast of the month over at Deluxe Edition Network is Friends Talking Nerdy. Friends Talking Nerdy is a podcast hosted by Professor Aubrey and Tim the Nerd that delves deep into all things geeky and nerdy. With their passion for pop culture, science, mental health, and technology, the hosts offer insightful commentary on the latest trend and happening in the world of geekdom. Through their engaging banter and lively discussions, Professor Aubrey and Tim the Nerd create a fun and informative space for all nerds to come together and explore the latest trends and ideas. We hope you join them. And now, on with the show. Hey everybody, we have a great show for you today. My guest used to be a hairstylist. Just one stylist. It's a Monday, trust me. But she does a couple of things now, and one of, well, they're both really kind, to be honest. One is she has her own podcast, Donversations.
Yes.
Please welcome to the show. I need to get some applause, I swear. Dawn Wecker, welcome to the show.
I'll clap for myself.
Go clap. How are you? There you go. I like it. And the crowd goes wild. How are you, Dawn?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for talking to me. I'm so excited.
It's fun to have people on, and it's fun when you get to do it in the same time zone.
That's true too. Yes, I've been on that side. Trying to make the times work is not always easy.
I had a call a while back with a gentleman from Great Britain. As a matter of fact, his episode is my current episode right now.
Oh.
And I was doing it like 7 a.m. So it was 1 o'clock in the afternoon, his time.
He's bright-eyed.
Yeah. He's all refreshed. He's been out for a run. He's done his day is half over right now, and I'm like gulping the coffee between talks. It was, yeah. But yeah, that's part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Part of the whole experience of podcasting.
Yeah, it is. I enjoy having other podcasters on my show because they can relate. You know, it's fun to talk to other people as well, but podcasters, we all know the difficulties that we deal with sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. How did your podcast come about? Everybody has an origin story, right?
Right. Well, I started it because I did hair for 30 years. And so my son thought I should start a podcast and talk about that, about doing hair, just being behind the chair and the stories we hear. And
oh my God, the stories.
Not what is typically out there, which is a lot about how to build your business and all that. I wanted to take the different spin and just kind of talk about the fun part of doing hair. And so I started a podcast about stylists, and it was called Salonversations. And my son's friend helped me come up with that. And he did my logo, which was a blow dryer and all that. Anyway, long story short, I hurt my elbow and it wasn't getting any better. And I decided, after 30 years, it's time to make a change. And so I retired, and I still wanted to continue the podcast, but I thought I want to talk to anybody and everybody. I didn't want to just keep it exclusive to hair. And so I got with that same guy, Jake, and I said, Jake, I need another name because I don't want to just talk about hair. And he was like, how about Dawnversation?
Because it does seem so logical, right?
It does. Yeah.
And then you're like, why didn't I think of that?
That's exactly what I said. So here we are. And so, yeah, it's a variety show, and I just get to talk to anybody about things that interest me. Honest to God, it's just whatever pops into mind. Or if I see a commercial or a show, I just think, that would be an interesting topic. And so I try and find experts, and here we are.
Oh, for sure. My mind is still reeling with the possibilities on everything you might have heard behind a chair in the salon. I'm sure you probably had years of worth of stories.
Yes, there were a lot of stories, but it was a lot of talking about how we dealt with COVID, because that was still so fresh. And so we were talking about how it ended up becoming so political. When people would come in and get their hair done, it ended up being a lot of, can you please just wear your mask? We're just trying to do our job here, so
and survive.
Yeah. Well, and it seemed like we were the last to get called off the floor and the first ones thrown back on the floor when COVID was happening. So it was like, I felt like we were guinea pigs there for a while. Like, are they going to see if all the stylists
if the stylists survive, we're okay. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
Yeah. My wife and I have had started a home cleaning business in 2006. It was still going when COVID started. And up here in Minnesota, I want to say it was like towards the end of February or very beginning of March, they said, okay, these businesses have to close and you can't do business anymore. And one of them were house cleaners. And we were like, we're sanitizing? Isn't that a good thing?
Right.
But no, I tried over and over and over again. I would write banging out letters to the governor and anybody else who I thought might listen. But no, and I think we opened up the same time as barber shops and salons. Mm-hmm. It was early May-ish, I want to say. But yeah,
exactly. That's exactly.
Crazy time.
St. Patrick's Day was our last day. And then we reopened May 11th. And it was just a really tough time for everybody, obviously, but just it was a whole new dynamic. And so, I was sad to leave the business, but with all of that kind of thrown in the mix, it made my decision a little easier. I think I was
so you left.
It's time. Yeah.
You retired after COVID or shortly after COVID or during?
Yeah, it was shortly after. I've been at my job for a year and a half at my current job that we're going to talk about today. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, it was talk about unkindness or not kind. Those were some not kind times.
They really were.
And just, regular people doing their jobs, as you say, were getting harassed and yelled at.
Right. And I think I told you too, it was just kind of like, it has nothing to do with the president. It has nothing to do with your political stance. Like, I just want to do your hair. And can we just talk about your garden or your grandchildren? Or, anything else? Like, what do you like to cook these days? There were other topics, but it just seemed like it was so in your face. And it just got really old, and it was really hard to keep a positive attitude for yourself and your coworkers and your other clients. You just wanted everybody to just have that where people could go and relax and not hear about all the negativity.
Yeah. I love the fact that you don't on your podcast that you don't talk about anything in particular. It's just all these organic conversations.
Yeah.
And that's awesome.
Well, it is, I just really wanted to keep it open. I love that I can talk about anything, that I don't have any constraints, and it makes my demographic little kids all the way up to the elderly. I try and keep the
Yeah.
cussing to a minimum, if at all. I just want it to be where if you see the topic, you can get on and listen in your car, and your kids can be in the car too, and it's no big deal.
Yes, for sure. I know I joined a network of podcasters, and I love these guys. They're great people, but some of their content is very NSFW, shall we say. It's like,
Yes.
I mean, I was in the service. It takes a lot to make me blush, but there are times listening to some of these other people's podcasts, and it's like, ooh, can you say that? And that's the other thing about podcasting. It's not like radio, right?
Right.
It's not like we're not regulated like like George Carlin. What did George Carlin had that 7 dirty words you can't say on?
Right. Yes.
And I won't go through them because this is one of I'm very yeah, right. Do I have a beep button here? I need a beep button. Dang it. But yeah, it's just that's. So you've been doing Donversations for, did you say a year and a half?
I'm going on my 3rd year starting in February. I'll start my 3rd year.
Nice.
So yeah, it's very exciting. I've had lots of episodes and I'm still having fun with it. So until that stops.
Yeah, it kind of starts as a hobby and then it becomes more like a job, but you still love it.
Right. Yeah.
And there are so many
people. I mean, you can't discount
there's
that.
so many
Once
people.
It's all done. It's just so cool to meet people all over the US, all over the world. It's just like, what a neat platform to be able to just talk to people.
I know.
All over the place.
I think I posted that on Facebook the other day. After I'd finished another show and I thought, if I had not started doing this, I would have missed out on meeting so many amazing people with so many great stories.
It's true.
I never would have known them.
Right.
And I'm blessed to be able to do this.
Yeah, and I'm kind of over, I mean, I haven't watched the news since 9/11.
Good for you.
It gave me nightmares, and I just thought, although I watch Dateline before bed every night, but that's another story. But
that would give me nightmares. Some of those stories are. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like with podcasting, it's just I can pick and choose what I listen to, and on the news, it's kind of a lot of things thrown at you at once, and so I really like that podcasting is a platform where you can just really listen to whatever you want. And you don't have to hear all the junk if you don't want to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. What's up with true crime podcasting?
That's a big deal. Like I said, I like
Dateline. Why? There are a lot of people who want to know about murders and such.
It's very true. I think it's just the solving, hearing that it gets solved, or us all wanting to be our own little detectives and trying to figure the crime out. It's interesting.
We're basically a whole nation of people that want to be private detectives, I think.
It's true.
It seems that way anyway.
We all have the internet.
So when you retired from your salon job and you started doing the podcast, but the top podcast probably doesn't pay the bills. We'll be right back with my interview with Don Wecker, but first, let's hear from a Deluxe Edition Network podcast member. This is the Quad Pro Quo podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome to Quad Pro Quo. Right now, you are probably thinking to yourself, oh great, another movie podcast. Well, dear listener, you would be right. But throw in a couple of marriages, decades-long friendships, and a shared property line, and you have just another movie podcast with a shitload of drama. Inspired by the iconic quid pro quo scene in Silence of the Lambs, each week one of us will pick a movie. It could be a childhood favorite, a classic film noir, an Academy Award winner, or a complete dumpster fire that brings joy to that person's heart. The selector's objective? To get us to love, or at the very least, not hate their pick. Will our marriages, our friendships, and our neighborhood survive? Find out each Thursday on Quad Pro Quo.
No, it pays zero bills for me. I do it all for free.
And actually, some goes out.
Yeah. But yeah, so no, I needed to have some income. I still have bills, and my husband works very hard, and he definitely helps more in the arena of finance. So he just said, if you can get out there and get a good part-time position. So I realized how much I missed the dynamic of being around people once I left the salon. I was getting it through the podcast by talking to people, but I wanted to do something that involved helping people for sure, because
Right.
that's what I was used to with doing hair.
Sure.
So, yeah, so I got a job helping the elderly. It's I don't know if every state has it, but there's companies that like Home Instead, if I can say that. Home Instead was one of them. That's not the company I work for, but there's places that help take people into the elderly people's homes and help them so that they can stay in their homes as opposed to going to a nursing care type of facility for as long as they can, as long as their mental capacity is there and also physical. And so, yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm loving
Go
it.
ahead. That's fantastic. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, I'm going to be doing a show with a woman who owns that type of business. It's called No Place Like Home in North Carolina.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
And she got into that business for that reason. This is great though, because we talk about loneliness in this country. And I want to say, was it the Surgeon General or the National Institute of Health or somebody like that came out last year, and they said loneliness at this point in the United States is an epidemic.
Yeah.
And I think what you do helps to relieve some of that. And especially for the seniors, so many of them, I used to marvel at my grandma. She passed in 1977. So it was like, but this is a woman that was born in 1900. So she literally saw humans go from walking or riding a horse to automobiles to airplanes to a man landing on the moon.
Yeah.
I'm like, such a huge experience in their life.
Right. Yeah. So many stories. And a lot of the times, their friends have passed before them, so they don't have a lot of peers around them. And their family may or may not be tired of hearing the same stories over and over.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm a good audience. I'm new, I'm fresh. And when
You
I
haven't heard all the stories already?
right? Or the jokes. But yeah, no, I mean, they just want the company. They just want somebody to talk to for a little bit. And my care is more companion because clearly I'm not a nurse, and I could style their hair. I mean, it's never really come up, but I mean, that is an option. If it ever did come up, I could style their hair if they needed, but it's mainly like there's a gentleman, he's going to be 98 in July. And I go to his house every Wednesday and I make him a full-on breakfast. So on the other days, he makes himself cereal.
Okay.
But I make him the eggs and bacon or sausage and hash browns. And it's so simple, but he looks forward to it every week, just knowing that I'm coming over and I'm going to make him a big breakfast. It's the little things with the elderly.
Well, when you think it's simple, it's just making bacon and eggs. But it's huge to him.
Yeah.
Because not only is he getting a really big breakfast, which is awesome in and of itself, but he gets somebody to talk to.
Right. Yeah. He's a widower. His wife passed like 18 years ago,
Oh,
and he still has a big picture of her, displayed. And so I always make sure I dust that. And he likes talking about when they were snowbirds and they would go from Nebraska to Texas in the wintertime so that they could be where it was warm and just their
oh,
friends. And yeah, he just tells me all the stories. And it's great for me too, because I just love being there for them and hearing what they have to say and just knowing that I'm helping them and helping them feel better too. It just feels really
sure.
great.
Yeah. That's, and this, I mean, but this is not just, I mean, it is for them,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, but you get something out of this too.
100%. Yeah. And there are s- small drawbacks. Like one of the ladies that I was helping, she ended up having a stroke back in October. So she is in a home now. And that was
Oh,
really hard because we got into our groove and I'd been going there for over a year. And all of a sudden, 4 days out of five that I was spending with her, I wasn't anymore. And so I missed
yeah,
her. I missed her company. I missed making cookies with her. And, it was, you form a bond with them just like
sure.
you would a family member. So that's a drawback. But other than that, it's very fulfilling.
Yeah. Just knowing what kind of impact you make on their lives has got to be, as you say, fulfilling. Um, because, yeah, you just can't beat old people. They have so much experience. And yes, it's, easy to go, oh, what do you mean you don't know how to work this iPhone or what have you? But they've got so much, there's so much more to them
Hmm.
than technology. And I think it's fantastic that you, now you're not a volunteer. You do this for a living,
Right.
but still, I think
Yeah. That's the thing when they say thank you before I leave. Thank you so much. And it's like, well, I am getting paid. But my mom even said, she's like, Dawn, even if you got fired tomorrow, you would still go back and make Marty breakfast. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I would.
you would. You absolutely would. Oh
Yeah.
my
I mean,
gosh.
it's such a rewarding thing. And again, it's just so small. Things that making your bed, you just make your bed. You just get up and you do it or you don't because you don't want to. And
Right.
then there's a level of they can't, it's for them to go around to either side and or just washing the dishes to stand that long in front of the sink to wash the dishes because a lot of them don't want to use a dishwasher. So
Oh,
they're old school and, want to
hmm,
do it by hand. And
yeah.
yeah, so it's just the little things and it makes you feel like, wow, very grateful for what you have when you leave. Like, wow, thank God. Like, take care of your bodies, people, because you really don't know what
True
your
story.
future is going to be.
True story. I would imagine that a lot of your I don't know how to put it. Clients? Do you call
Yeah,
them
we'll call them
clients or
clients, you bet.
okay. Okay, clients. They have varying degrees of what they're able to do and not able to do, I would imagine.
That's right. Yes. Um,
So,
if they're
go ahead.
too far gone, there's more nursing staff that would come into play. But
Okay.
I'm there for the people that are pretty self sufficient. They just need some eyes and ears there. Make sure the food's not expired in the fridge. Little things, and then cleaning
Yeah.
bathrooms. Detailed kind of stuff that's just none of us like to do, but we
Right.
can. Yeah,
Right. And
that's
they
mainly.
can't.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a house cleaner, I can tell you that that is not a job for wusses. Bending
Truly.
over the tub trying to scrub it. I mean, when you get into your 80s and whatnot,
Right.
that's almost impossible to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see that. Oh, that is so cool. And you love it, and they love it, and
And their families. It puts peace of mind to their families because they go through an extensive background check and stuff before they hire people to do this job, to make sure everybody's on the up and up. But, I've gotten close with their children who live across town and can't be right there. And they say, how are they doing today? Are they getting around good? Is everything fine over there before they can come over and say the evening or that weekend? So it's basically helping the families too that aren't able to always be there all the time because they still work or they have
Sure.
their own children that they're running back and forth. So it really is a good, well, I don't want to say happy medium for them to have somebody there.
Right. Well, no, it's got to be a peace of mind kind of thing, knowing that there's somebody who's been fully vetted
Mm-hmm.
and is taking care of mom or grandma or dad or grandpa or whoever, uncle.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
To know that there's a person who also cares about their loved one
Yes,
and
very
cares
much
about their
so.
well-being and is there looking after them,
Exactly.
even if it's just one day a week.
Yep. Yep, exactly. Yeah, they set up a plan to how often they think that somebody needs to be there. And for some people, it's out of pocket. Some people, the government helps. Some people, if their VA might help. It just
Oh,
depends on how
sure.
they're able to afford to get the services. That's
Does Medicare cover that?
some. Mm-hmm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. I'm
Yeah.
going to be eligible next year asking for a friend.
Yeah, it really is. It's a great thing. I'm super proud to be a part of it. And I wish more people would do it because I think if they knew exactly what it did involve and how rewarding it was, more people would step in and do it, even if it was on a volunteer basis.
There's a lot of programs out there like, well, Meals on Wheels. You
Hmm.
guys have Meals on Wheels down
Yes,
there,
we
right?
do. Yep.
Okay. I think that's national.
Yes.
But yeah, just delivering meals to an elderly person who's shut in.
Hmm.
And they, again, same thing, similar. They're probably not cleaning, they're just delivering meals, but just seeing that face, I don't know how often they do it, but maybe once a day, once a week.
Yep. Yeah, whatever they need. Well, and a lot of those people live alone.
Mm-hmm.
And so they say, I'm not going to go in the kitchen and whip up spaghetti for, 10 people and have all the
Me.
leftovers and all the cleanup and everything. So for them, I think they start to lose an appetite a little bit. And then just the actual process of going in and making something for themselves to eat is a real chore. That's just something they don't want to do. They don't have the energy. And so to have these meals dropped off for them is so great. Or
Yeah,
any
very
meals
helpful.
that I can help make, while I'm there, I try and do that too.
So you said you made breakfast for, was it Marty?
Yeah.
First of all, hey, Marty. Tell Marty I shouted him out. Um, but have you ever done that where you make a lot of meals and then freeze them for?
Yeah, I have helped. I've cooked up burgers before and then
Nice.
put those so that they could have burgers throughout the week. Because obviously, if they can't cook in their kitchen, they're not going to go out and start the grill up, But it's just
Fair.
stuff like that, again, it's just things that we all just take for granted.
We
Just
do.
going and just throwing something together. I think it just is so much energy that they just don't want to expend doing that. They'd rather expend their energy to get from room to room.
Right? Yeah. From the couch to the bathroom and back or what have
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
right.
But you bring them dignity, I think,
Yeah,
with what you do. Because if you weren't there coming into their homes and helping them out, where would they be? Would they
right.
be in a facility?
More than likely, yeah. I mean, it definitely is. I wish I could think of the word that I'm trying to think of, but it's a good interim so that they can stay where they're at for a while until it just comes to the point where there's no other option but for them to go to some type of assisted living. Usually, I would say I'm more in the place of I am assisted living until they have to actually go to a nursing home.
Well, that's a
'Cause-
nice way to look at it.
right, right. But yeah, it is. It's super rewarding, and they're just great people, and it's nice to know. I would want somebody to do that for my parents if I wasn't around. I would love it to know that there was. And one of the ladies said, "Everybody needs a Dawn. Everybody needs a Dawn."
And that is the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah. My mom was in independent
Mhm.
living
Yes.
facility. And I mean, she didn't need the care until she went in hospice. But yeah, Because you hear the horror stories about the facilities, right?
Hmm.
And how
Yeah.
bad they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think. My grandpa, he lived to be 99, and he would always say that he did not want to go to a nursing home because he said, you're only coming out in one way.
Well, that's
Once you go
true.
in, you know how you're coming out. And he just did not want to do that. And I get it. The older you get, the more you understand. Because I would think, oh, that would be so nice to be around more people their age. But I think, first comes the losing of the car. And, it's just like all these things get taken and taken. And then they
Yeah.
just feel like hopeless. So to be able to stay at least in their home where they feel most comfortable for them is just like a huge feeling of
Oh, for
independence.
sure. For sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know. You were talking about the car. My mom, she was 83, and they told her she needed a valve replaced in her heart. And she had lived through my dad had a valve replacement back in the 70s. And I think that image was stuck in her head, and
Yeah.
she said, nope, absolutely not. And I went with her to the cardiologist when this conversation took place. And she said, nope, I'm not doing it. I am not having that done. And the cardiologist looked at her and he said, do you have your car keys with you? She said, yes. He said, give them to your son because you're not driving anymore if you're not going to get this surgery.
Oh my gosh.
My mom was devastated. All of my life, that was the one thing I heard from her is, you're never going to take my car keys from me. It was so
Mm.
huge for her.
Oh, that's so sad.
Yeah. I mean, I understood why he said that because, if your heart is actively failing, you could be behind the wheel and,
Yeah, danger. Yeah.
it could be dangerous. So I understood where he was coming from, but I also understood that this was a huge source of pride for my mom.
Of course.
And that was, yeah. But yeah, to be able to stay in their own homes
Right.
is absolutely paramount for them. And it's such a huge, I say pride. I don't know if it's really about pride, but independence.
I think it is. Yeah, it is. They're very proud of themselves if they can still be on their own at an older age like that, knowing that they are very self-sufficient. I mean, I'm not there 24/7. They
Right.
definitely are there enough, but it's just things that we all have to do, turn on the TV and having it not work. For us, it's like, oh, I'll get this figured out. And for them, it's like, oh, I didn't have TV for 3 days because I couldn't get it figured out. So I just made do. I just, or they can't read if their eyes are that bad, or their hearing.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just all these things that you don't think about. And I help them write out letters. I help them fill out their birthday cards because one of them has really bad shaking. And so
Oh,
it's just those kinds of things. It feels so good to be able to help them keep doing the normal things that they've been doing so that their families feel like, oh, they're still thriving, not gone yet.
yeah, for sure. Don, it was so cool having you on. Thank you so much for what you do. Donversations,
Yes.
Apple, Spotify.
Everywhere. Yep. All over. And I just started doing YouTube videos. So YouTube as
Nice.
well. Yep.
This may end up as a YouTube video, by the way.
Oh, all right.
It's an audio only
Well, I kind
podcast,
of
but
should
then I
be.
realized. So yeah, check out Donversations, folks, and be kind to your senior friends.
Very much so. Yes.
Thanks so much for being on, Don. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you, Mike. Take care.
So much fun to talk to Don Wecker today. I think a lot of kindness comes down to how we treat others who are less fortunate than we are. And when we think about how fortunate we are, we have a roof over our head or clothes on our back or food to eat. And I think we sometimes forget just how fortunate we are. And if you can help someone else, whether it's a homeless person or a single mom or a senior, I think that's the highest order, the highest calling for kindness. And I hope that maybe this conversation inspired some of you to reach out and be kinder to somebody else. That will do it for this episode of the Kindness Matters podcast. Until next time, and there will be a next time. Until next time, be that person who roots for others, who tells a stranger they look amazing, and encourages others to believe in themselves and their dreams. You've been listening to the Kindness Matters podcast, and I'm your host, Mike Rathbun. Have a fantastic week.